B equals A. So we're just turning it around. If 10 times 2 equals 20, then 20 equals 10 times 2. All we're doing with symmetric property is flipping the equal sign. So whatever's in front goes to the back, whatever's in back goes to the front. Your transitive property. Transitive is the one that we've been working with for the past couple of days. It says if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. And we've done this quite a bit. Hopefully you're familiar with this by now. So if these two things here are the same, that means the outside two things have to be equal. Addition and subtraction property says whatever you do to one side, be it addition or subtraction, you have to do to the other side. So the addition and subtraction property, if A equals B, you can either add a C to both sides or subtract a C from both sides. It will still remain equal to each other. Once again, we're going to go through these pretty quick because you already know these. You've had them quite often. We have multiplication and division properties. If A equals B, we divide both sides by C. They're still going to be equal. Or if we multiply both sides by C, they're still going to be equal. And then we have the substitution property. If A equals B, then A may be replaced with B. So we use this a lot, like x plus 2 equals 7. Okay, if x equals 5, we can replace this 5 for that x. That's substitution. Okay, so now they want us to write a two-column proof. We're given this part of the proof. They want us to prove that x equals 2. Now, you've done this for a long time. You've done this since probably 6th, 7th grade. So this should be nothing new to you on the left side. On the right side will be a little bit different because you have to explain why you're doing it. So the first thing we're going to do is we take our given and we write it as our given. That is always your first step, is to restate your given. So we have 3 times x minus 5/3 equals 1. Okay, so all I did, write my given. The reason it's the given is always your first statement. Just like with paragraph proofs, our first sentence is always the given. When we get to two-column proofs, our first sentence is always the given. Number 1 is always the given. All right, so our next step. Hopefully you know that in order to solve this equation, we can distribute the 3 to the x and to the 5/3. We take 3 times x, we get 3x. Minus, I take 3 times 5 is 15, divided by 3. So in order to multiply these together, it's 3 times 5/3, which is the same as 3 over 1, times 5 over 3. Multiply straight across, I get 15/3. 15 divided by 3 is going to give you minus 5 equals 1. And since I told you at the beginning I'm going to distribute the 3, it is the distributive property. All right, so once we have the distributive property, we can move on. Now your book puts another property in here, and I'll show you what they do. So if you're ever short a step, this might be what happened. So you have 3x minus 5 times, 3 times 5/3 equals 1. They do that as the distributive property. Then they just combine those as 3x minus 5 equals 1. And they call this step here, to get from the 3 times 5/3 to 5, as substitution. once we get to substitution now, we have to do something. We're solving for x. So in order to solve for x, you should know we have to get this 5 to the other side. We need to find x, get x by itself. So in order to get rid of a minus 5, we're going to have to add 5 to both sides. So we take 3x minus 5 plus 5 equals 1 plus 5. That is called the addition property. Okay, once again, when you add those together, you add this together, you get 0. You add this together, you get 6. You get 3x equals 6. That is substitution again. Once we get there, we have to get the 3 out. So in order to get the 3 out, we use the division property. So we have 3x divided by 3 equals 6 divided by 3. That is the division property. And then our last step, once again, is going to be substitution. So we get, these cancel, these move with x. This is 2, and it is substitution. So once again, this side is like Algebra 1. It's everything you did in order to solve the problem. This side, you haven't done before. That's geometry. So let's take a look at the next one. All right, now we have given that the measurement of angle 2 is 60 degrees. And the measurement of angle 2 is congruent to angle 10. Okay, and it wants us to prove that the measurement of angle 10 is 60 degrees. Well, by looking at the given, you can come up with this pretty easy, but we need 4 steps to do it. So the first step, we are once again going to write our given. And in this case, our given is the measurement of angle 2 is 60, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 10. All right, so that's our given. Now, we need to get to what we have to prove. So in order to get there, we have a few steps. Okay, so if we know that the measurement of angle 2 is congruent to the measurement of angle 10, we can say that the measurement, angle 2 is equal to angle 10. And like we've done on the board for the past few days, you should know that this is the definition of congruency. And in this case, it's the definition of congruent angles. So we have the measurement, this is the measurement. So we have the measurement of angle 2 is equal to the measurement of angle 10. So by substitution, I know that the measurement of angle 2 in my given says that it's 60 degrees. Or 60, whatever it is. So that has to be equal to the measurement of angle 10. So that is substitution. Now the problem is, between this one and this one, we have our 60 and our measurement of angle 10 on the wrong side of the equal sign. So we have to flip them over, because we're trying to prove that the measure of angle 10 is 60 degrees. Well, if you think back to those properties that we just had, what tells me that I can flip those around? And it's the symmetric property. So once you get to step number 3, don't think that's it, because it has to match exactly what we're trying to prove. So you have to make that one more step and give me the symmetric property. All right, we're going to try one more before we get to the homework. And that is, we are given that 7/2 minus n is equal to 4 minus 1/2 n. They want us to prove that n equals -1. All right, so we are going to make, once again, a two-column proof. Okay, we have our statements always on the left and our reasons always on the right. So our first one, 7/2 minus n equals 4 minus 1/2 n. That is always a given. Okay, so what do we have to do? How do I get rid of one side or the other? Well, because I have a 7/2 and a 1/2, I want to multiply this whole thing times 2. And what tells me that I can do that is the multiplication property. All right, the multiplication property says whatever I multiply to one side, I can multiply to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this. So I get 7 minus 2n equals 8 minus n. And I told you I'm going to distribute it, so this has to be the distributive property. Now, in order to get the n's by themselves, I have to do a couple more steps. All right, so I want to get rid of the n on the right side of the equal sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an n to both sides. So 7 minus 2n plus n equals 8 minus n plus n. And obviously, since I'm adding to both sides, it is going to be the addition property. All right, so I have number 5. I'm going to combine like terms. So when I combine these, I'm going to get 7 minus n equals 8. And when we combine stuff, that's the same as substitution. All right, I have to get the n by itself, so I'm going to have to subtract a 7 from both sides. And what says I can do that is the subtraction property. Now I just do it, so I have negative n equals 1. Once again, a lot of times, especially with the algebraic proofs, you're going to be repeating yourself. So this is once again substitution. 8, I'm going to have to divide both of these. Negative n divided by negative 1 equals 1 divided by negative 1. That is the division property. And then your final answer gives you substitution again. So if I substitute this, I get n equals negative 1. So that's what we were trying to prove. That's the 9 steps it took to prove it. Once again, it's not really anything different than you already know, but you have to explain how you're getting there. So I need you to give me 2 questions that you have from this lesson. When you come to school on Monday in class, we'll go over those questions. We'll answer what you have a little bit of trouble with. Then we'll get to work on that homework. So I will see you Monday.